President of this nation. And my daughter is 9 years old. She's standing over here somewhere else. She is a lot of the reason why. In fact, there she is. Reagan, can you wave? She is a lot of the reason why I'm standing behind Senator Cruz tonight. Because in just a few years, when she is grown, I don't want to stand and look at her and tell her that I failed in getting up and doing what I could to bring a good man into the office of the presidency. I'm like many of you, I'm tired of the failed policies, I'm tired of the failed politics, and I'm tired of failed politicians. It's time for something different. Now, with that, I have the honor, standing here tonight, introducing somebody to you who absolutely needs no introduction. His name is Glenn Beck.
Thank you so much for coming out. That's the best introduction I've had. Everybody usually says that Amanda doesn't need an introduction, and he just said, then just say my name. And he did. I was like, yes. Thank you. I'm so glad to be here, honored to be with you, honored to stand with a group of people who have not lost their principles, who have not lost their way, no matter how angry, how disenfranchised we might feel, that we're actually standing on principles. I am proud to stand with you. So let's begin there. What are we all here for? There you go, right in the front. We are here for the Constitution of the United States of America. Others will want to make this about who has the best chance of winning, beating Hillary Clinton. Others will make it all about them. Donald Trump is, I don't know if you've seen, he's got a healthy ego on him. But he, up until we started pointing this out when I was on the campaign trail in Iowa, he always said, I mean, I had to look it up because I couldn't believe it. It had to be a misspeak. He's changed it now, but when we were in Iowa, he was always saying, I will make America great again. And no one man can make America great. That's not the way it works. It's we the people that make America great. We make America great again. And how do we do it? What did de Tocqueville say when he came to the United States in the 1800s? What made America great? Does anybody remember?
America is great.
America is great because America is good. And I come to you with a warning. Let me get all of the icky stuff out first. I come to you with a sincere warning and a plea to please get this word out as fast as you can and talk to your friends and your neighbors on a couple of things. Just a real quick recap. In 1999, I was on the air in WABC in New York, and I followed Sean Hannity, and I was just a nobody fill-in guy. And Mark Levin was off, and I was filling in for him. And it was the day that we bombed the aspirin factory. Remember when Bill Clinton bombed the aspirin factory? And we bombed the aspirin factory, and all of the Republicans were saying, this is bad, he's just using this to cover up for Monica Lewinsky and get his name off the front page. But I actually took the time to read into why we were doing that. And I found a name I had never heard before, couldn't even pronounce the name. But I'm usually like that with Bob Smith as well. But I'd never even heard of this guy and who we were targeting. And I read his words. I spent all day reading his words. And I went on the air, and when I started talking about it, I said, listen, he's right on this. I don't like Clinton, but he's right on this. We have to pay attention. An hour went by just taking phone calls with all of these Republicans saying, you're just trying to help the Democrats and you're just trying to help Bill Clinton. And I said at the time, you got to get past the party. We have to look at principles and we have to look at the actual facts of the case and not worry about the party. Let's do the right thing. Nobody would listen, and I said at the end of that hour, mark my words, New York, there will be blood, bodies, and buildings on these streets of Manhattan within the next day, and the signature on those bombings will be Osama bin Laden. Mark my words. That was in 1999. Nobody listened. In 2004, I started talking about disenfranchisement with the Republican Party. The program directors went out of their minds because I said, wait a minute, there's something wrong. There's something happening in America that I've never seen before. And it's a disenfranchisement. We're starting to feel betrayed by our parties. And I talked to everyone I had on as a guest from Washington, D.C. I would say the same thing. Do you sense this? Do you realize what you're doing? They didn't listen. In 2006, I started talking about the banking scandal. And I said there's going to come a housing and banking collapse. And it will be worse than the Great Depression. And it would have been if we didn't bail those banks out. And what's coming now in our short future is a collapse that will be greater than the Great Depression because we didn't fix the problem. We only made it worse. But nobody would listen to me in 2006 and 2007. And then we all remember they had never heard the word caliphate, and that made me crazy, or you crazy, if you ever repeated it. Your friends were like, oh, stop listening, that's just crazy talk. Now, everybody knows the caliphate is real. I only tell you these things because I come to you with a warning today. We are in deep, deep, deep trouble. And I believe this is our last call. This is our last chance. You know, scriptures will tell us all the time, and they cried out for a king. And God always says, no, you don't want a king. Yes, we do. No, you don't. Yes, we do. No, you don't. Yes, we do. Okay. And he gives the people a king. We have free choice. I'm telling you right now, we're screaming out for a king. And we're about to get one. And we have, no, that's not a good thing. No. You can follow along. I'll catch up. Talk over 7. Catch you up. We don't want a king. We don't want a king. That's why we fought for our own freedom, to get rid of a king. We the people, we answer to no king but God. Woo! And the way we're headed, we're about to tear each other apart. And I have talked about this in the last 2 years because we've all played a role. When I went to Fox, I really tried to do the right thing. In retrospect, I couldn't tell you how I could have done it differently. But I tried to do the right thing, and in retrospect, I played a role in tearing us apart as well. I was just trying to tell the truth. I was incapable of doing it another way. I tried to get people to listen, to be entertaining enough, to get enough eyeballs, and I thought we could change the course. And I honestly thought the people in the media would actually tell the truth from time to time. That didn't happen. But we've all played a role. And we all now have to understand that we will never be a great nation if we are not a good people. And we have to hang on to our goodness and not play into the rage and try to save those people who are good people but are so disenfranchised, are moving in another direction. Today I posted on Facebook that Donald Trump was on with Jake Tapper this morning on CNN, and he was asked, how do you feel about David Duke and the KKK endorsing you? And Donald Trump said, well, I'm not going to disown them. He said, I'm not going to say anything bad about them because I don't know that group. And Jay Tapper said, the KKK. The little pointy hats, those guys. And he said, well, I have to do my own research. I'm not going to disavow them until I do my research. Incredible. I mean, I think one of the first things in politics is, anybody ask you questions about the Klan or the Nazis, just go with bad. So I have to do my own research. Well, I posted this and with the video, and his followers are saying a couple things. He never said that, and so what if he did? We have to tether ourselves to facts. We have to tether ourselves to decency, and there is no decency when you say, I can't speak out and say negative things about the Klan. I don't know. I think the Nazis might be okay. The same weekend that he quoted Benito Mussolini and said he knew it was from Mussolini and he didn't care. And then also on Friday, he said that he was going to change the libel laws so he could go after media organizations, and I wonder what kind of media organizations those might be, that disagree with him or lie about him. I don't know if you know this, but anytime you say anything that doesn't agree with him, he claims you're lying. That will put people like me out of business. And I want you to understand, hear me clearly. I take people like Osama bin Laden. I take people that talk about a caliphate. I take people for their word. And if he gets in, I just had this conversation with my kids this morning, because my kids, my older kids, are actually coming to me now going, Dad, he might win. And I said, I've been telling you for a while that if he does, we will have to find some friendly country in case it gets bad to be able to leave and broadcast back into the United States because he'll shut us down. We're in trouble, America. We are in trouble. And it is time to stop. Quite honestly, I think it's the patriotic duty of those who are running in this race who don't have a chance at this point to drop out and consolidate to do the right thing. Because here's what's happening. America has a choice right now. We have a four-way choice, and our founders knew this would happen. They knew it would happen. That's why they were so pure on the Constitution. Because George Washington, at the end of the Constitutional Convention, when all eyes turned to him because everyone was arguing and they needed to make a deal because one state wouldn't do it without some sort of pork. They needed something in there. Benjamin Franklin, at 81 years old, makes the case, we can't do that. You know that we didn't beat the British. God beat the British, and we were there just doing our part. But it was the Lord Almighty that actually got us here, and we haven't seen his finger, we haven't seen his hand, we've seen the whole arm of the Almighty. This is his property. This is his freedom. It wasn't Thomas Jefferson who wrote the words, when in the course of human events. He was taking dictation. It's not our right. Those rights that are enumerated in the Constitution, they belong to God. We are stewards of those rights. And so Ben Franklin was making the case that we got to do the right thing. We have to do it pure. One state was a holdout. What a surprise. It was New York. And so New York said, we can't take it back. We got to have something. You got to give us something. And that's when George Washington, who said very little at the Constitutional Convention, stood up and said, let us raise a standard to which the wise and the honest can repair. Now that's a lot of colonial speak, but here's what he meant. Let us raise a standard. Let us do this one thing, this Constitution, and let's do it perfectly. Let's do it measured out. Every single word has to be right because you know this is a document that comes from God. So let's do this one thing right. Let us raise that standard for the whole world to see. Then the next line is, to which the wise and the honest can repair. Repair in this particular phrase does not mean to fix, it means to run to. So he saw that there would come a time when America had lost its way and wouldn't know what to do and had abandoned the Constitution, hadn't really thought it, but they would remember that there was that sacred document, and the wise and the honest would run to the Constitution. He saw our time. And here's what's so amazing. He saw you. He counted on you, the wise and the honest, to say, gang, we've got to run to the Constitution. Because right now there are 4 things that we can run to. First one is socialism. Bernie Sanders is making a good point on what has caused the problem. He has diagnosed our illness quite well. He said that we're a country that was built on fairness and that we're no longer a fair country. And I have news for you. I don't agree with his language, but he's right. We weren't founded on fairness. We were founded, to use their words, that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Among these, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's what we were founded on. We were also founded on the idea of equal justice. Equal justice doesn't exist. If you run a small bank and you go bankrupt, you're not getting a dime. You run a business, you're not getting a dime. You run General Motors, you run Citibank, well, you're too big to fail. That's not equal justice. We also know that if you commit a crime, you're going to jail. If Hillary Clinton commits a crime, she's running for president. Hillary Clinton should not be running for president. She should be in prison. Ladies and gentlemen, the president of Cell Block 6, Hillary Clinton. And you know that's true. You know that's true. And I would say that, you know where we started going wrong? Nixon. When Ford pardoned Nixon, my father looked at me and shook his head. They knew it was wrong then. Nixon should have gone to prison. You break the law. You go out because of your own stupidity in business. No more too big to fail. No more too big to go to jail. Equal justice under the law. Woo! That only comes when you have a respect for the law. So the first one is socialism. That's not America. The second thing we can run to is the status quo. And I put Hillary Clinton kind of into that category, but I also put Marco Rubio, because these are the deal makers that just will keep the system running. And that's why the establishment wants those two. They just want the thing to just keep running the way it is, because quite honestly, it's spitting out winning lottery tickets for a lot of people in Washington. Not any of us, but for them, it does. The status quo. Donald Trump has played the status quo for a long time. Anytime that, I can't believe people don't hear this. Of course I gave politicians money. I gave politicians on both sides of the aisle, because when I wanted something done, I knew I'd get it. That's called bribery. That's not a way of doing business, that's bribery. I want you to think about your children right now. I want you to think about your neighbor's children, your grandchildren. Do you want to teach them that that's the way they do business? Or do you want to teach them you play by the rules? You play fair, you work hard, you study. You really do the right thing, and you can do anything. Or do you want to sit there and say to them, yeah, well, you can do all of that, but in the end, if you don't have connections and you don't have money, you're not getting anywhere. That's why America is becoming hopeless, because that's what we're being taught that is true. And it's us. This country country belongs to us, not the clowns in Washington. They work for us. It is time we send a message back to them. This is our country, and this is what we expect. The status quo will lead us into revolution in the next 10 years. Hear me. The status quo will lead us to revolution in the next 10 years. And it will not be good. And it will not be good for any of us. You don't want revolution. Then you have totalitarianism, authoritarianism. I put Donald Trump into this. Any man who says, I'm going to change the law so I can get rid of the people who disagree with me is a totalitarian, authoritarian leader. Anybody who doesn't have to answer questions, but trains his followers to, I don't know how many times I've seen four separate occasions where somebody has heckled him and he has said, you know what? Beat the snot out of that guy and I will pay your legal bills. That's not good. That's not right. That's not righteous. That's not something I want my kids to see on television. That's not America. That's a totalitarian state, and it is terrifying. And it should terrify everyone to their core. I'm telling you, we will look back and pine for the days of Barack Obama. We will pine for those days if you have a totalitarian leader like that. Now think of your kids one more time. How do we tell our kids not to use that kind of language? How do we tell, in a society that is so obsessed with bullying and teaching our kids that they can't say anything in school because it's a bully, we're obsessed with this. How do we teach our kids? Don't emulate the president. Don't repeat his language. Don't treat people like the president treats people. We can't do that. We can't do that without losing our goodness. So far the choices are socialism, the status quo, authoritarianism, and it comes to the last one. And the founders knew it. There would come a time when the wise and the honest would run to the Constitution. That is the solution for all of our problems. And that's not supporting a man. We're supporting a man because this man we know will stand for the Constitution because we've seen him. We've watched him do it. Woo! Arrows and tanks, he continues to stand. He won't lie to his people. I'm from Texas, man. I told him, you know why all your trees bend that way, right? So, no wait, then the other way. I can't remember, my state doesn't suck, yours does. Okay, stop with the hot air coming from Texas. There's no hot air there. What were we talking about? When I'm sitting here in Texas and I'm watching him and I'm talking to him, and he talked a good game 4 years ago. And I said to him, Ted, you talk a good game, but you're looking me in the eye and you're saying you're not going to go to Washington and become part of them. And you know what? A lot of my friends have said that, and I don't have any friends left in Washington. My friends have told me in the past, please, Glenn, if I start to go bad, you gotta, I mean it, you gotta come and get me. I've tried. I've actually flown into town for 2 people and said, hey, I need to talk to you. Come to my hotel room. Come to my hotel room. Hey, dude, remember that thing called a soul? You're losing it. No, I'm not. Hang on. Meet your mystery guest family. Because they've come with me. It's an intervention. They don't see it. They go there and they lose their soul. And so I looked at Ted and I told him that story. And I said, you tell me this, I just want you to know, A, I will come out and try to get you. But because you're telling my audience these are the things you're going to do, if you don't, I'm going to be your worst nightmare. And so I've watched him. And he's the only guy that I have seen. I've never endorsed anybody ever in my life, and I probably will never endorse, because this sucks. Probably will never endorse anybody again. But I did it because we're in trouble. The time is running out. And I see a man who I truly believe was born for these times, and he's never lied. He's done exactly what he said he would do. No matter how many arrows were coming in from the other part in his chest, and how many knives were thrown in his back by his own party, and no matter how hard the media has kicked him in the head for 4 years, he didn't move. Why? He's either stupid or he actually believes in what he says. And that's what it is. He believes in the Constitution and the almighty power of God. I'm going to do something that's going to make you wildly uncomfortable. Everybody take your clothes off. No. I want you to turn to somebody that you don't know. Turn around and look at the person behind you, okay? Assuming you don't know them. So look at the person behind you. Wait, that doesn't work because then everybody's facing out. Okay. Find somebody you don't know, and I want you to look them in the eye. I want you to look them in the eye. Make eye contact. I know, it's creepy.
Hey, how are you doing? I'm Shay Hayes.
Make eye contact and say this to them.
Yeah.
I pledge to you my life, my fortune, and my sacred honor.
That's a big pledge. I pledge to you, my friend, my life on behalf of the Constitution. How's that? That'll work.
I want you to say that with real meaning. I want you to understand we're in this together. We are the people that have already changed the course of human history in America. When we started getting together and doing the 9/12 Project and the Tea Party, we've already changed the course. Ted Cruz is here because of you. And we are going to, it's all you need is 10%. Between 10 and 17% is all you need to change a culture and a course of a country. And we're here because we actually believe in something. When you say, I pledge to you my life, my fortune, and my sacred honor, that's what our founders said to each other, and they meant it. What we need to do is pledge to each other, because all these votes count. I have to tell you, I started doing this, and I looked at Ted and I said, I can't believe that talking to 500 people is going to make a difference. It does. It does, because if everyone here went out on Tuesday and you brought just a couple of friends, you just brought one friend, you brought them and said, you need to vote, and here's why, and you had that conversation, you would change the course of the election. Right now, it's in a virtual dead heat. It's between Trump and Cruz. Believe in the power of the Almighty God. Trust your principles and trust yourself and trust in God. Go do this one thing. This is the time you were born for. History is going to write about you. Because it could all come down to Tuesday. And we could change the course of our nation. We could go to a socialist nation, a nation that goes into revolution because we have the status quo, or a totalitarian nation. And history will write about us. And I don't know about you, but I read the Bible and I'll flip back. I'll look at what people are doing. I'm like, geez, these people are so stupid. If they just look back 3 pages, they were doing the same thing. How did they forget? That's us, gang. We don't want to be the ones that people are scrolling back and going, look how stupid they were. We want to change the course of history and bend the arc of history to good. Free more people, not less. Because if America falls, where does anybody go? When I said that to my kids before I got on an airplane, they said, Dad, where would we go? I said, I don't know. I don't don't know. Of course, my youngest daughter said, is there some place like with a beach? I don't think so. I want to show you a couple things. Ronald Reagan had problems with his family. Patty, his daughter, had problems with drugs and problems with him politically, and it was bad. And they had a falling out. Just after he told the world that he had Alzheimer's, he wrote Patty a letter. This is the letter he wrote. There's just this one little card. And I'd like to read it to you because the parallels, this is his family. But gang, this is our family. And I want you to listen to this. Dear Patty, it was good to hear from you. As the song goes, the days dwindled down to a precious few, and in view of my recent birthday, that's pretty important and appropriate. Patty, I think a talk between the two of us is the answer to some of our differences. There are extremists on both sides of every issue, but reasonable people should look into both sides and see if every charge and countercharge is justified by the facts. And even if there are differences, would that justify a family separation? We can disagree on things without abandoning our family principles and relationship. I remember a little girl who sat on her dad's lap and asked him to marry her. Dad. She sold this letter for drug money. She never repaired the relationship. But we have the same chance. Our neighbors and our friends need to look in as reasonable people to every charge and countercharge and see if they're justified. To see when somebody says, liar, 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 is that person a liar? We have to put our party differences and even our political differences aside. We might be for Ted Cruz, but I got news for you. If Ted Cruz wasn't who he says he was, I wouldn't be here. None of us should be. If you find information, you shouldn't be there. You have to do what's right. We're not playing teams. We're trying to do the right thing. And that's what sets us apart. Do you remember, anybody remember the name Charlie Bucket? Yes, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Willy Wonka, like, the kids like this. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. What did everybody tell Charlie Bucket? Everybody but his grandfather. Couldn't do it. You'll never get out of this, Charlie. You're gonna live like this for the rest of your life. You're never gonna make it. Don't get your hopes up, because it won't work. And Charlie believed, against all reason, Charlie believed. He knew his life wasn't destined to be there. And his grandfather